You can't diminish what Trump did as a political matter. I mean, whether you want a plurality or not. He had 16 opponents, many of them governors, senators, and he just slaughtered them all, one by one, without really any impediment, anything holding him back. And now, I think the more relevant point that Bill's making is today, the never Trump rump is diminished, dwindled to almost nothing. Yeah, you've got this incredibly high, historic, as I said before, historic level of support among Republicans. And no one, even though you could at least at the beginning of the administration, you looked at people like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and said, well, they're going along with Trump to get their agenda done. Well, they got their tax cut, and now today they're still not standing up to
apparently they have no other agenda.
They're afraid of the base.
They know the base is with them.
I know.
All right,
this is now the party of Trump.
Let's get another question in. Let's get people spend time writing these questions. Let's get
In a fiery showdown on Bill Maher's stage, a bold conservative takes on the panel with sharp wit and undeniable facts, challenging their anti-Trump narratives head-on. As arguments are dismantled one by one, the panel struggles to keep up, leaving the audience riveted by the relentless back and forth. This electrifying exchange stands as a defining moment in the clash of political ideologies. What unfolds is a powerful takedown of progressive talking points, with the conservative exposing glaring contradictions and highlighting the growing divide between leftist rhetoric and conservative reasoning. Maher's panel is left stunned, scrambling for counterpoints as the debate heats up. If you crave hard-hitting political debate, this viral confrontation is packed with unforgettable moments, and it's guaranteed to get people talking.
I can understand how you could do it when the Republican Party was a party that was about economics and free markets and free. Right now, the Republican Party is defined by its suspicion and hostility toward people who look different, sound different, worship different gods. So what do you, that's the party. How are you distinguishing yourself?
Well, look, Fareed, you know, President Trump talks a lot about patriotism to the country. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, we say one nation, under God, indivisible, et cetera, et cetera. One nation, under God, indivisible. One nation. Rhetoric or reality? Do we truly believe we are one nation? And if we are, then that means we recognize and we accept that we are a country compounded of different folks from all over the world, regardless of what they look like, their sex, or their religion.
Well, that's not how a lot of your fellow Republicans look at it.
Donald Trump but Donald Trump certainly doesn't look at him. All you had to do is look at, you know, Hurricane Maria and look what happened in Puerto Rico.
But we've allowed him, Linda, to define
I wouldn't wait for your
Americans.
invitation to the CPAC convention.
All right, guys. Let's talk about what's really going on inside the Republican Party and the bigger picture of American politics right now. So here's the deal. There's this ongoing tug-of-war between how people see the GOP, often as exclusive and super socially conservative, and how some conservatives, especially minorities, are trying to reshape that image. These folks are working to stay true to their political beliefs while still being strong voices in their communities and aligning with broader societal values. And let me tell you, that's not an easy balance. Now on the flip side, the left gets called out here too, mainly for pushing identity politics so hard that it starts to divide more than unite. The argument is that focusing too much on our differences can actually backfire, creating more walls and bridges. And get this, Trump, of all people, is apparently trying to pivot. Yeah, the same guy known for stirring things up is now being seen as trying to come across more unifying, maybe to win over more folks and quiet down some of the backlash.
This is for you, Sir Michael. You said you can be a minority and a conservative, but can you be a minority and a Republican under this administration?
You know, that's a good question. I think that the expectation, at least from what I get from talking to other African Americans and minorities in general, is that sure, we don't have a problem with you being a Republican, but our expectation is that you are articulating the concerns of our community. So yes, I'm a black person who happens to be a Republican. That doesn't mean I don't care about police brutality. That doesn't mean I don't care about criminal justice reform. Those are issues that disproportionately impact my community. And it is my duty, if you will, when I'm at that table, when I'm in those meetings, to advocate for the issues of my community, because I recognize there will be moments like the moment we see now, where you have a Jeff Sessions running the criminal justice system, and he's rolling back a lot of things that President Obama did with bipartisan support that benefited African Americans. So it is my charge to say, wait a minute here, you're not going to pass policy legislation that's going to continue to disproportionately impact not only black people, but brown people. So I think you can most certainly be a conservative and a minority, but being a Republican right now during the age of Trump, I think is a very difficult thing.
Michael, you want to?
No, absolutely right. I mean, Which is why Sir Michael happens to be one of my favorite Republicans. Because what we've seen is a lack
big of you.
Well, I mean...
Pretty short list.
Some of your best friends are Republicans.
You know,
you're telling us?
y'all are taking all my good lines. But the thing is that if you have black people who understand, even if you're associated with that administration, that what Trump is doing is undercutting the value of not only black people, but Republicans, as we've been saying. And the fact that you had William Coleman, the fact that you had a legacy of black people, Jackie Robinson for that matter, who were Republicans, who understood that it was about an economic orientation of fiscal conservatism. It was not about the culture wars that Trump seems invested in, because one of the factors we missed in all of this brouhaha is the demonization of the big black boogeyman, Barack Obama, and that spooked a lot of people into voting for the Republicans in a serious way.
But you know, Dr. Dyson, I disassociate myself as a black conservative with what we call lily white conservatism, that sort of wallows in racism, if you will, bigotry, sexism, if you will. And I think you have to make a clear distinction between the two. And where the Republican Party screws up time and time again.
How do you do this?
Let me just say this. I really don't think that old-school, narrow-minded version of conservatism exists in any meaningful way anymore. I mean, props to this guy for standing his ground as a conservative. I totally respect that. But, honestly, it's kind of crazy that he even has to defend himself for it. Yeah, maybe in the past, conservatism had some exclusionary vibes. There were people who clung to outdated norms and resisted progress. That was the whole dynamic for a while. Liberals pushed forward, conservatives pushed back. But that was then. Now tuned in here, the landscape today is completely different. Now, sure, you've still got some folks stuck in the past, but they're a tiny minority. They're fringe. They're not the ones shaping policy or leading major movements. They're not winning primaries or getting airtime in any serious way. So the idea that someone has to explain or justify being a conservative today, as if they're automatically tied to those fringe views, is just absurd. That mindset is outdated, and it's time we moved past it.
Well, you know, what I was writing about in that book was the post-American world, because you had China rising, you had India rising, you had Europe that had come together. The point I was trying to make was we're in a kind of historical shift of power where these other countries, often that had long been mired in poverty, are rising in economic growth, political power, cultural confidence. And so that world has been going on. You know, the emerging markets were 5% of global GDP 25 years ago. They're now 50% of global GDP. But what I did not predict was that the United States would sort of abdicate leadership of its position. Because I argued the United States would still be incredibly powerful. It would set the agenda. It represented, you know, the values. It had a way of being able to be the leader. And this shift where the United States has decided to literally just walk away from its own creation. I mean, people forget, this was the world that FDR and Harry Truman built after World War II. And to see, you know, the Europeans, as I say, are sort of surprised because they don't quite understand it. They're like, wait, you built this house and now you want to set it on fire?
I'm less surprised that a Trump could rise. I mean, that has happened in countries where, as how quickly the Republican Party just completely got behind him. It reminds me of the Neanderthals. You know, no, really. I love ancient archaeology and that kind of stuff. So, like, you have the humans and the Neanderthals who are sharing the planet from about 100,000 BC to about 40,000 BC, and then suddenly, no more Neanderthals. I think because humans, they figured out the blowgun, so they could kill you from 10 feet away. I'm getting this from the movie Quest for Fire. I don't know this, but I think that. So, but like, it's like there's Neanderthals, and then suddenly the fossil gone, and that's kind of what happened to the Republicans.
I think
they were just there, and then they suddenly disappeared.
I think what happened is, and this is, you know, gets to the point Linda was asking, what happened to my party? I think that Trump recognized, and the primaries you see this, that the base of the Republican Party was in a completely different place.
So, there's this major shift happening in global power. Countries like China and India are stepping up in a big way. And even a more unified Europe is starting to flex its influence. We're not just talking about economic growth here. It's political power, cultural confidence, the whole package. And what it's all pointing to is a changing world order, one where the US isn't necessarily calling all the shots anymore. Now here's where it gets real. Zakaria says the US isn't being pushed out, it's stepping back on its own. Think about that. After World War II, the US basically built the global leadership structure we've known for decades, under leaders like FDR and Truman. But now, it's like we're burning down the house we built and walking away from it. That self-inflicted retreat has left a vacuum. Our allies are confused, global institutions are destabilized, and into that space steps a more fragmented, post-American world, one that isn't necessarily rooted in American values or influence. This isn't just foreign policy talk. This is about the future of global leadership and whether or not the US still wants the role it spent nearly a century building. Thank you for watching and being part of this important conversation. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay updated on more debates, insights, and thought-provoking discussions, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support helps us bring you more content that challenges ideas and sparks meaningful dialogue. Don't forget to like, share, and comment with your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.